Hello everyone and welcome to EECS discussion number 8. We're going to be continuing our series of discussions about tools for asset creation for your games. So to recap, in our first asset creation discussion we talked about ProBuilder, which we can use for 3D modeling within the Unity editor. It's got a lot of really great features and it's built right into the Unity editor as a plugin. Up next, we have Aseprite, which was a 2D pixel art and sprite editing tool for making animated pixel art. And then third, we talked about Reaper, which is the digital audio workstation program that you can use for music production. And all of these three, we showed off, how you can use them for free. So for our fourth one, we're going to go back to 3D modeling software. ProBuilder is built into the Unity editor, but it's not really designed for really, professional, high-quality 3D modeling. For that, there's software like Blender, which is specifically designed for 3D modeling. Blender is a free and open source 3D modeling, rendering, animation, rigging, visual effects, physics simulation, and video editing program. It has all these many features, which is wonderful and really great to work with. I'm primarily going to be showing off its use with modeling, and then I'm going to show you how to import the models you make in Blender into Unity. As a disclaimer, I am a complete beginner to Blender, so all of this information is sort of being presented as what it's like for someone who is a complete beginner to the software to use it for the first time, or for one of their first times, and then bring it into Unity. So I will also link to you in the description of this video this wonderful Blender Fundamentals playlist. This is made by the official Blender YouTube channel, and there's just lots of really wonderful, well-designed tutorials on how to start with Blender and how to get started using it. Each of these videos is pretty short in length, except for a couple of them which are maybe 20 minutes long or 10 minutes long. But overall, if you're really interested in using Blender, this video series is what I would definitely recommend checking out. Anyways, it's available for Mac, Linux, and Windows. Once you download and install it, it should take up about half a gigabyte. And then let's launch it and show you what the interface looks like. So this is Blender. I'm going to hit New File General, and it's going to take me to the default new program or new project in Blender. You'll notice there's a lot going on in this, similar to the Unity editor and other programs we've been showing off. The main part of this interface that I want to make sure you're aware of is the bottom row. If you look down here, hopefully you can see my mouse. This bottom bar will always tell you what different buttons on your mouse can do. So you can see if I'm hovering inside this view, it says I can press the middle mouse button to rotate the view. So I'm going to press and hold the middle mouse button and drag the mouse, and you can see it's rotating like I want to. And it says now when I'm doing this, I can press Alt to do axis snap, and it'll snap to these axes, which is cool. If I press and hold Shift, now it tells me pressing and holding the middle mouse button will do a pan, which is, now I can do that. It says, basically this will always, no matter what window you have hovered in Blender, it'll tell you what your mouse can do. And this is great because Blender has so many different features that you might want to do it. Next thing, the Blender has so many different windows, and you can configure all of these to be whatever you want. This default view in this right here has the outliner up here, which you can think of as like the asset hierarchy that from like a scene in Unity. Then down here is the properties panel, which you can think of like the inspector in Unity. You can right click when you can resize all of these windows. When you're in the area to resize it, you can right click and say, vertical or horizontal split. You can place a split wherever you want, and you can add new windows. I can go and change this to whatever I want it to be. It's the 3D viewport, the compositor, shader editor, the graph editor. This can be anything. And then if I want to remove the windows I made, I click join areas, and then I click on the window that I want to delete. So you can configure these. Up here in the top bar are a couple of pre-configured presets of window orientations. So we have, the layout for modeling, sculpting, UV editing, texture painting, shading, animation, rendering, compositing, and sculpting, or scripting. So I'll show you, in this example, I'll show you myself using a couple of these different windows. As a beginner, I don't really know what works best for me, so I don't really modify from the norm too much. So for this kind of demonstration, I'm going to make a tree model. So I'm going to remove this cube, start by doing that. Then in the top corner here, while I'm in object mode, I'm going to go to add, I'm going to go to mesh, and I'm going to choose cylinder because, our tree needs a tree trunk. I'm going to set the location. This has a transform just like in Unity. I'm going to set this to 0, 0, 0. Then I'm going to modify the scale here. I'm going to make it thinner in the X way, and I'm going to make it that exact same value in the Y. That looks fine. Maybe we want to make it a little bit thinner. Let's make it 0.3 and 0.3. Looking good. And so next thing, what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to add. I'm going to go to mesh. I'm going to add a cone. And here's our cone here. Let's also reset it to 0, 0, 0. But now let's increase the top here. So now we have a basic little tree looking model. But now let's go ahead and make this a little more complicated. Let's highlight the cylinder. I'm going to go into the sculpting tab. And I'm going to choose elastic deform. So I'm going to click here. And you can see we can sort of change the shape of the trunk here and make it something that's more than just like a cylindrical shape. So that looks pretty cool. Yeah, I like that. Then up next, I think I'll make the cone a little bit larger. So let's, not the cylinder, the cone. Let's make it a little bit taller. And then we're going to go into the modeling pane. Let's click bevel. Oh, let's do this maybe. Add a little bit of beveling to it. We'll click extrude region. And, we've created basically like a layering sort of thing going on. Let's keep on extruding. I think that looks pretty cool. We look back in the layout pane. This is what it looks like now. I think that looks kind of fun. Maybe we can spin this out a little bit. No, that looks weird. That's not what we want to do. Let's just keep this as is now. The next thing we're going to do is we're going to go back to the layout pane. And now we're going to go down here to where it says material properties, where we have the cone highlighted, and the cone is our leaves. So I'm going to hit plus here in material properties. I'm going to add a new material, and I'm going to call this leaf material. And I'm just going to set the base color here to a nice green color. And you're going to notice it's not going to change in this view right here. If you go over to the shading window here, this will show you the effects of modifying the material, and you can change the material around here as well. So why don't we do the material changing here? So we'll make it this green looks pretty nice. Then I'm going to highlight the cylinder, and I'm going to hit new. I'm going to call this material for our cylinder trunk material, this trunk mat. I'm going to set the base color to be sort of we'll decrease the value. We'll make it like a dark tree trunk brown. I think that looks pretty cool. And there is our colors on our tree. Maybe we want to add a little bit, to make it maybe a Christmas tree, we can add a star on top. Let's click add. I don't know how to add a star, but perhaps we can just add a little red sphere on top. But a icososphere. And then let's go to its transform here. Let's make its X and Y location 0. Let's make its 0.1, 0.1, 0.1. Maybe bigger than that. Let's do 0.2, 0.2, 0.2 at the top. Let's go to shading. Let's make it maybe yellow. Let's just change some of these values here. Emission. You can change all of these different values on the material if we want to. So we'll make it a little more metallic maybe. I think that seems pretty cool. We'll call this material, what is this, a star glow or something like that. So that's our material on our little sphere on the top there. So we've kind of made a little 3D model here with all of these different objects. And up next, by the way, there's also, you can do UV editing and you can do texture editing. So if I take the, say the cone, basically you can edit all of these at a much higher detail level if you want to be painting. You can add a texture here to each basically each 3D object, and then you can paint the texture such that it's specific and more than just single colors. But for now, for this demo, I'm just going to be using single colors. I would recommend, again, checking out the YouTube tutorial on how to do the texture painting and UV editing, because do a much better job than I am of how to do that. Anyways, so next thing we should do is probably save our project. I'm going to hit save. I'm going to name this 494 tree. It's going to save it as a .blend project file. Then I'm going to hit file. I'm going to hit export. I'm going to hit FBX. FBX is a 3D modeling. It's a 3D model file type. That's very common. So one thing that's really important for you to do when exporting to Unity is to just highlight the 3D objects that make up your model. Make sure that you don't select the camera and the light, and then you say selected objects, limit to selected objects in your export. And then I'm going to go ahead and click Export FBX. and that's exported. Once that's done, let me go into Windows here. Let's go to, we can see 494tree.fbx is now here. If you're on Windows, Windows has a built-in 3D viewer, Windows 10. So you can see here our tree is here. We can look at what it looks like with all these different lighting effects on it using the Windows 3D modeling viewer. So that's showing us that the export worked out okay. More importantly, we can bring FBX models right into Unity. So I'm gonna open up just a brand new 3D project in Unity for this example. Let's that. I'm gonna right click here. I'm gonna click import new asset, and I'm gonna choose our FBX file. And now it's gonna show up here as 494 tree. And now, hey, look at that. Here is our 494 tree. If we want to rotate our lighting maybe a little bit. You can see our tree is right here. Let's bring it up. And we have successfully made a 3D model in Blender. And then we have taken it from Blender and brought it into Unity for you to use. I know I didn't go over a lot of details of how to do like the texture painting and UV editing, which might be more important for you if you want to be making more through detailed models. But like I mentioned, that's not something I'm really proficient in, so I'm not going to talk about something I don't know about. But hopefully this as like sort of a basic demo of how to get started with Blender and how to bring models into Unity is helpful to get you started. As always, if you have suggestions for other tools you want me to go over and give overviews of, feel free to recommend them to me. I'm happy to do that. And, I wish you good luck on your Project 3, and I will see you next week. Thanks.